Now, plenty of news happening in and around the United Kingdom. We've seen Rishi Sunak make his first visit to the Ukraine. And joining me live is CEO of the Australian British Chamber of Commerce, David McCredie. A very good morning to you, David. A big day for Rishi Sunak going to Ukraine.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. I think it just reinforces what we've seen in your earlier interview with the colleague from the US, that Western powers recognise the challenge that Russia really is imposing on the rest of the world with this illegal military action, and recognise that we really need to stand up. It was one of the things that Boris Johnson was widely recognised and hailed for in terms of his leadership on supporting the Ukraine, and that's unabated with the new Prime Minister. So clearly we're going to see a continuation of the support and indeed a stepping up of support for the Ukraine going forward. It's terrific to see.
It's obviously very tangible what's happening, a lot of money, a lot of military hardware, but it's also a very significant message to the rest of the world, and there's plenty of individuals like those in North Korea who are rogue in the way they deal with the rest of the world.
Yeah, look, I think we're in a time where Western leadership of the world, in terms of that free international rules-based system, has been under threat for a period of time now. And this is just another case where we need to step up and show that whilst we may not have the leadership in terms of the names that we're familiar with over probably the last 60 or 70 years and the sort of leadership that those names provided, whether they were the Maggie Thatchers, the Ronald Reagans, even on the Russian side, the Mikhail Gorbachevs, for example, who really stepped up and towards peace and a secure future where everybody played on a level playing field. We're in a situation where that's under threat, and as it's always been said, freedom comes at a cost, and you have to keep standing up and being present every time that it's questioned, and we're seeing that happen in a number of different geopolitical conflicts or potential conflicts around the world at the moment.
He's had to hit the ground running, hasn't he, the new Prime Minister for the United Kingdom? What are your thoughts?
Look, I think it's been a really refreshing period in the last couple of weeks, seeing Rishi Sunak take control. Obviously, having formerly been Chancellor, he's well aware of the machinery of government. He's pulling the right levers. I mean, let's be honest, the economic situation around the world right now is really very much in a really perilous state. Many economies either in recession or looking at down the barrel of recession. Australia might be able to weave a magic line through the middle, as we've done on a couple of occasions over the last 30 years. But for many economies, it's a really difficult time. UK's inflation hit 11.1% in the last week in the latest data. That's a really significant number. And unfortunately, inflation isn't something that's easy to fix. It's not like you can just pay people more and the problem goes away. That exacerbates the problem. It's like pouring fuel onto the fire. So it's going to be a challenging period coming up. It's a haircut that people don't really want to take. And we're used to improving living standards and significantly improving living standards, not only in the Western countries, but around the world over the last 20 or 30 years. And this sort of inflation is really difficult to recap. And I think as Chancellor of the Exchequer, he obviously made steps towards that. I think his Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, who put out the autumn statement in the last week, has really gone a long way to trying to minimise the impact economically on the UK. We'll wait and see how effective that is, but certainly the markets, as opposed to the Kwasi Kwarteng / Liz Truss Trussonomics financial statement of a month or so ago, this one was much better received by the markets, and we're in a much better place economically to go forward, whilst it's still going to be quite a painful period.
That's what's going to make or break the new Prime Minister, isn't it? How he deals with this tricky economic situation that he faces, particularly back home, because we saw a story yesterday, just as an anecdote, of a couple in Sheffield, average working class couple with 2 children, and they were articulating how difficult it is just to put the food on the plate, just to pay the rent. So this is replicated right around the country.
Yeah, and quite frankly, Tim, not just around the country, but around the world. We've been warned here that energy prices, I think Jim Chalmers, the Treasurer, said a couple of weeks ago in our budget here that, or around that time, that the 50% increase in power bills is likely. Those sorts of numbers are staggering. And when energy is a considerable cost already to the household budget, with interest rates also rising, so mortgage rates and rents also going up, it does put pressure on our disposable incomes and what we might want to choose to spend our money on. And with global supply chain challenges still very much with us, it's a very difficult time to see a really easy way forward through this. It is a very difficult and complex problem that will cause a lot of political grief, not just in the UK, but I think we're seeing it more broadly around the world.
Yeah, and what about the free trade agreement quickly? We have Anthony Albanese. I think he spoke to Rishi Sunak while they were overseas.
Yeah, they caught up in the margins of the G20 in Bali, which was fantastic. Look, the FTA is clearly the issue of the moment. The next 2 weeks, we'll see it pass through the Houses of Parliament in Australia in terms of the ratification process. The Joint Standing Committee on Treaties put out their report on Friday afternoon. So we've now got that sort of process right at the end of the journey here in Australia, and we're not far away in the UK, despite all the distractions of the political uncertainty and leadership challenges and so forth over the last couple of months. The process is still progressing quite well in the UK, and so hopefully we'll see that come into place early in Q1 2023, and that will enable us to get on with the opportunities that we can see in each other's countries, which will be fantastic.